Chosen one, I want you to imagine something before we begin. Imagine you received a letter, a real one, sealed, with your name on it, and only your name, not addressed to a group, not sent to everyone, sent to you specifically, after being written for a long time by someone who knew exactly what you would be carrying when it arrived. You would not open that letter casually. You would be still, because the weight of the seal alone would tell you, this was prepared with me in mind. That is what today is. God said this message was going to be sent once. And if you have been in a season of waiting, the deep kind, the kind where you have prayed so many times, the words feel hollow, but you keep praying anyway. The kind where you have questioned if the promises were for someone else. The kind where you are still here but barely then. I need you to understand something before I say anything else. You are not late. You were never behind. The letter was not ready until now. And now, it is. Something brought you here today that was not yours to arrange. You did not find this. This found you. I am going to ask you to do one thing before we continue. Take a real breath. Not the shallow one you have been taking since you sat down. A deep one. Pause, because what comes next was written for you, and you are ready to receive it. Everything I am about to share in this message is completely free. But if at any point something in your spirit tells you there is more, that you need something beyond what words can carry, you will find it waiting in the description and the pinned comment below. Only when you feel led, not before. Now, before we go any further, I need to ask something of you. Stop whatever else you are doing. Not mentally, not as a performance. I mean this simply and practically. If there are other things open, close them. If there are other voices nearby, find a quieter space, or save this for when you can return to it fully. Because what is coming was sent specifically, and it deserves to be received specifically. This is not background content. This is not something to half listen to while your mind is elsewhere. What I am about to share is the kind of message that lands differently when you are fully present for it, and I do not want you to miss what it is actually saying because you were distracted when it arrived. So take one more breath. Let your shoulders drop. Let the tension in your jaw release. Let your body recognize that you are in a safe space right now. You do not need to perform readiness. You just need to be here. And you are. Now, let me show you something. Because the reason you are here, the reason this message found you at this exact moment in your life, is not random. And the first evidence of that is something you have already been experiencing. You may not have had language for it until now. There is a kind of tiredness that does not come from not sleeping enough. It sits deeper than that. It lives in the bones, not just the muscles. You wake up after a full night, and you are still tired in a way that rest does not seem to touch. Not because something is medically wrong, not because you are weak, but because your spirit has been carrying weight, that your body is registering weight, that your mind has not fully processed yet, weight that belongs to a season of transition that is happening beneath the surface of your daily life. If that is you, if you have been tired in a way you cannot fully explain, I want you to hear this clearly. This is not burnout. This is not a sign that something is wrong with you. This is your body responding to the pressure of a becoming. When something is being formed inside a person, when a shift is happening at the level of identity and calling, the physical body feels the weight of it before the mind understands it. What you are carrying is not emptiness. It is fullness that has not yet found its form. Type "I see it" in the comments right now if this is landing for you. There is a second thing you may have been noticing, and this one is more specific. You have been waking up at the same hour in the night, not because of noise, not because of pain. You simply open your eyes, and it is the same time or close to it, and you cannot explain why. You try to go back to sleep, and sometimes you do, but sometimes you just lie there in the quiet with a sense that something is trying to reach you. In ancient wisdom traditions, the hours of deep night were considered the hours of least interference, when the noise of the world had gone quiet enough for something deeper to come through. The awakening you have been experiencing is not insomnia. It is a summons. The sealed letter arriving at the hour when you are most open to receive it. And here is what I need you to stay with me to understand, because what I am about to walk you through over the next several minutes is going to reframe every single one of these signs into something entirely different than what you have been told they mean. I want you to stay until the end of this message, because by the time we reach the closing, you are going to walk away with three things. You are going to understand exactly what season you are in and why it has felt the way it has. You are going to receive the specific identity that God has been building in you, not a general encouragement, a specific designation. And you are going to be given something practical that addresses the very frequency issue at the root of why so many chosen ones feel the gap between who they know they are and what they have been able to access. Stay with me for all of it. There is a third sign, and this one is quieter, but it might be the most telling. The rooms that used to feel like home have started to feel draining. You sit with people you have known for years, and something in you is simply elsewhere. Not because you have become cold, not because you love them less, but because you have been changing, and the environment has not changed with you. And the gap between who you are becoming and what that space can hold has grown too wide to pretend otherwise. You have not become indifferent. You have become calibrated. Your spirit is recognizing the difference between connections that feed what is being built in you and connections that cannot hold what you are carrying. That is not loss. That is discernment becoming active in your life. There is something else. A restlessness that is not anxiety, not depression, not dissatisfaction in the ordinary sense. It is the urge to make something, to build, to write, to create, but you cannot quite name what it is yet. It arrives and then dissolves before you can grasp it. You feel pulled towards something that has not yet taken shape in front of you. That restlessness is not a symptom of what is wrong. It is purpose knocking from the inside. It is the calling making itself known before the path has been fully revealed. And the fact that it is growing in you, the fact that it refuses to stay quiet, is one of the clearest signs that the appointed moment is approaching. And then there is this. Something you may have dismissed as coincidence, but that keeps happening too consistently to be coincidence. The same phrase showing up in a book you opened randomly, in a song that played without you choosing it, in a conversation with someone who had no idea what you have been thinking about. Three unrelated sources, the same essential message arriving within the same week. That is not random. That is not coincidence. That is not accident. God does not repeat without intention. When the same word finds you through three different doors, it is not because the universe is glitching, it is because you are being addressed directly. The letter is being delivered through every available channel to make sure it reaches you. Type, "I see it again," if any of these 5 signs have been present in your life. Because here is what I need you to understand, and this is where everything begins to shift. Every single one of these signs, the bone-deep fatigue, the night wakings, the rooms that no longer fit, the unnamed restlessness, the repeating signs, every one of them has been telling you the same thing. Not that something is wrong with you, not that you are falling apart, not that you are behind. They have been telling you that you are in a preparation. And the reason the preparation has felt so disorienting The reason you have not been able to explain it to the people around you is that you were being prepared for something they were not being prepared for. Let me tell you about someone. She had been walking in faith for 14 months. Same prayers, same promises, same verses every morning, but said with less conviction each time. Not because she stopped believing, because she was tired. The kind of tired that does not leave after sleep. She told me she had almost stopped confessing the promises altogether. Not dramatically, she did not announce she was giving up. She just quietly started going through the motions, waiting for the feeling to come back, wondering if maybe the season had passed without her recognizing it. And then one morning, ordinary Tuesday, nothing particular about it, she read the same verse she had read 300 times. And it opened. Not new information. The same words she already knew, but seen differently. Like the same room, with different light. Everything was where it always was, and suddenly she could see all of it. She said it felt like a letter she had been carrying for 14 months, finally split at the seam. God said this message was going to be sent once. For her, it came on a Tuesday. I believe for you, it is today. And here is what I need you to hear before we go any further. You were never behind. The letter was not late. It was not ready until now, because you were not ready until now. There is a concept in ancient Hebrew and Greek that your faith tradition may have referenced without fully unpacking. Two different words for time. Chronos, the ticking clock, the calendar, the deadline. The world you live in runs on Chronos. Your bills arrive on Chronos. Your birthday happens on Chronos. The promotions you did not get, the timelines you did not meet, those were Chronos comparisons. But God does not move in Chronos. God moves in Kairos. Kairos is not a measurement of duration. It is an appointed moment, a specific, prepared, singular intersection of readiness and purpose. A Kairos moment cannot be early. It cannot be late. It is precisely when it is supposed to be. You have been measuring your life against a Chronos calendar, but you were always living in a Kairos story. And the Kairos, for this message, for this specific word to land in your spirit, at the depth it needs to land, is now, not 6 months ago, when you were not yet ready to receive it, not a year from now, now. You did not miss your season. Your season is in motion, but here is what I need to show you next. Because understanding that you are not late is only the beginning. What I need to show you now is what was actually happening in you during every moment that felt like delay. What was being formed, what was being stripped, and why it had to happen exactly the way it did. Stay with me. There is a reason the preparation had to feel the way it did. Not a comfortable reason, not the kind of answer that makes the pain disappear when you hear it, but a true one. And truth, even when it is hard, is more useful than comfort that keeps you confused. In the ancient world, before anyone was sent, before any person was commissioned to carry something significant, there was a wilderness. Not as punishment, not as abandonment, as formation. Think about what wilderness actually is. It is not nothing. It is not empty time. It is the place where everything that was false gets stripped away, because false things cannot survive without the structures that maintain them. The wilderness removes the structures. And when the structures fall, you find out what was actually real in you. The isolation you experienced in this season, the withdrawal from people, from noise, from the version of life you were living before, was not a sign that you were being forgotten. It was a sign that you were being taken somewhere. You cannot form what is forming in you in the middle of a crowd. Formation requires quiet. It requires stripping. It requires the kind of loneliness that is not loneliness at all, but separation with a purpose. In that season, You learned things that cannot be taught in a classroom or a seminar or a conversation. You learned them through the weight of carrying them. You learned discernment by experiencing what the absence of it cost you. You learned patience by having no other option. You learned who you actually are by watching who you were not fall away. In that season, you were stripped of the false versions of yourself, the performing self, the people-pleasing self, the self that kept shrinking to fit into spaces that were never built for you. That stripping was not loss, it was preparation. And in that season, certain people left. Some of them left dramatically. Some of them simply became unavailable in ways that were quieter, but just as final. And some of them are still physically present, but the connection has become a kind of silence that both of you are managing without saying so. I want to say something about this that almost no one says. The people who left were not wrong about you, and you were not wrong about them. What happened is simpler and harder than that. They were not built to go where you are going. The direction of your life and the direction of theirs separated, the way two rivers will separate from the same source. It is not betrayal, it is geography. The path ahead of you runs through territory they were not called to. And you are carrying something about this. A guilt, maybe. A sense that your growth has been a kind of rejection of the people who shaped you. A feeling that becoming who you are becoming means leaving people behind. And that feels like a cruelty you did not choose. I want to speak directly to that guilt right now. You are allowed to outgrow people. You are allowed to outgrow places that once held you. You are allowed to outgrow versions of yourself that no longer fit what is being built. You are allowed to protect what God is forming in you, even when that protection looks like unavailability to people who want access. You are allowed to be misunderstood for this season without having to explain yourself into someone else's comfort, and you do not owe anyone an apology for becoming who you were always intended to be. Let that land. There was a woman named Esther, and before she was queen, she was an orphan. Before she stood in a throne room and changed the fate of her people, she spent years in preparation she could not have understood at the time. She was not given a manual. She was not told what the preparation was for. She was simply in the middle of a formation she had no full picture of. And when the Kairos moment came, when Mordecai said to her those words that have echoed across thousands of years, for such a time as this, she did not receive that as a compliment. She received it as a commissioning, a recognition that everything she had been through had been preparation for a specific moment that required everything she had become. God does not waste formation. Every wilderness you walked through, every relationship that ended, every version of yourself that was stripped, every night you spent asking questions that had no immediate answer. It was all preparation for a message that needed to arrive at a specific Kairos. That Kairos is now. Let me pause here for a moment. You have been carrying something in this season that most people around you cannot see. And you have carried it largely without acknowledgement, without someone sitting across from you and saying, I see what you are holding. I see how long you have been standing in this. Before we continue, I want to offer that acknowledgement now. The fact that you are still here, still present, still believing that something greater is possible, still willing to receive something that has not fully arrived yet, that is not small. That is the evidence, not the outcome, the standing. Breathe that in for a moment. Now let me show you something about who you actually are. Because the formation you went through was not generic. It was specific. It was building something specific. And I need to name it. You are a seer, not in the theatrical sense, in the real one. You perceive patterns in things that other people process as coincidence or noise. You have known things before they happened, not always dramatically, sometimes just as a quiet knowing in the body. a sense of where something was going before anyone else in the room could see it. You have tried to explain this to people and found that the explanation did not land. Not because you were wrong, because they were not built with the same capacity. You are also a truth carrier. This means something specific. It means that you cannot inhabit inauthenticity for long without your body registering the cost. When something is false, when a relationship is performing rather than real, when a space is built on something hollow, when a conversation is going in a direction that dishonors what is true, you feel it. Before your mind articulates it, your body already knows. That sensitivity has been a source of pain in your life. It has made you feel too much, too intense, too difficult to be around. But that sensitivity is not a disorder. It is a gift operating at a level most people do not have access to. And you are a cycle breaker. What ended with you, patterns that ran through your family, agreements that were inherited without being chosen, ways of relating and surviving and hiding that were passed down through generations, they ended with you. Not because you declared war on your history, but because you refused, somewhere deep and early, to carry what was never yours to carry. You bore the weight of ending things that should have ended long before you arrived. And that was not easy. And it was not recognized. But it was real. I hear the Father saying over you right now, and these are the words I feel being placed on my heart for you, not my declaration but His. I saw you before you saw yourself. I knew what you would become before you knew. You had a choice. Every room you walked out of, every version of yourself you let go of, I was there, and I was not absent in any of it. Let that land. Now, something I want to share with you. A number of chosen ones in this exact season of recalibration, people who recognize the signs we have been discussing, people who are in the formation, people who are standing at the threshold of what is next, have been working with something that I want to name for you now. It is called the Genius Song. It is a 7-minute audio track built on research into brain entrainment, specifically the reactivation of the gamma frequency, which I am going to explain to you in detail in just a moment, because it connects directly to everything we have been talking about. 7 minutes. Headphones, eyes closed, daily. If something in you is already resonating with this, you will find it in the description and pinned comment. Only when you feel genuinely led, not now, not as pressure. Just it is there when you are ready. But stay with me, because what I am about to show you next is the piece that makes everything else make sense. There is something happening in the brain of a chosen one that almost no one is talking about. Researchers at MIT, Princeton, Harvard, and several other leading institutions have been studying a specific pattern of brain activity for decades. The gamma frequency, the neural band associated with heightened clarity, deep intuition, and what some scientists describe simply as knowing beyond what your eyes have seen. The ancient wisdom traditions called it hearing from God. The mystics called it the open ear. Modern neuroscience calls it gamma. And here is what Dr. Robert Lake, a neuroscientist who has spent 34 years studying this, specifically discovered in his research. We are born with full access to gamma frequency. Children operate in it naturally. It is why young children have an uncanny sense of things, why they say things that are too perceptive for their years, why they perceive atmospheres in rooms before anyone explains the situation to them. But starting around age 7, when formal education begins, when the pressure to conform increases, when performance and approval start to reshape the brain, the gamma frequency begins to decline. Not because it was defective, because the environment was not built to sustain it. This is what the research calls the decline effect. And here is the connection I need you to hear clearly. You have described your spiritual life as feeling, at times, like static, like you are trying to receive something and the signal keeps dropping. Like you pray and the words feel hollow, like you believe but the access feels blocked. Like the clarity you sometimes experience in rare moments feels like a different person than the one you are most of the time. That is not a spiritual failure. That is a neurological condition that was caused by a world that was not built for your frequency. The kairos moments require kairos receptivity. You cannot receive a message sent in divine frequency if your receiver has been partially tuned to static. The gap you have been feeling between who you know you are and what you have been able to access, that gap has a real biological component, and it is addressable. Here is something I want to give you that is practical. A framework I call the 3-layer discernment test. Because if you are a chosen one, standing at a threshold, one of the most important skills you can develop is the ability to distinguish genuine divine timing from ego urgency. The first layer is the source check. Divine timing feels like clarity even when it is uncomfortable. It arrives with a kind of settled weight, not with panic. Ego urgency feels like pressure, with anxiety underneath. It needs to move fast because it cannot survive slow examination. When something is presenting itself as a next step in your life, sit with it. If it can hold still, it is worth trusting. The second layer is the body check. Genuine guidance arrives with physical stillness in the body, even when the decision is significant and even when it is frightening. There is a difference between the fear of expansion, which is real and appropriate, and the tension of misalignment. Your body knows the difference before your mind does. Learn to read it. The third layer is the alignment check. Ask one question: does this require me to become smaller or to step into more of who I am becoming? Anything that requires you to shrink your calling, silence your voice, or betray what is being built in you, regardless of how logical it looks from the outside, is not the next step. Before I show you the revelation that makes all of this come together, and there is one more thing I need to reveal to you that recontextualizes everything we have covered. There is something I need you to stay for, because what comes next is not another layer of teaching. It is the piece that changes how you understand every piece that came before it. It is the part of this letter that you have been waiting 14 months, or however long it has been for you, to read. Stay with me for just a few more minutes. What comes next is the reason this message was sent. Let me take a step back and tell you plainly what we have covered together, because I want you to hold all of it before we continue. You arrived here carrying signs: the deep fatigue, the night wakings, the spaces that no longer fit, the unnamed creative restlessness, the repeating signs that kept arriving through unrelated doors. We established that these are not symptoms of what is wrong. They are evidence of what is being formed. We looked at the formation itself, the wilderness season, the stripping, the relationships that could not travel the distance with you, and we named that not as loss, but as preparation for a specific kairos. We named 3 of the identities that have been forming in you: the seer, the truth carrier, the cycle breaker. And we looked at the decline effect, the way the gamma frequency that carries divine receptivity has been suppressed not by spiritual failure, but by the very systems you were raised inside. If you are someone who has felt the gap between who you know you are and what you have been able to access, you now know why, and what comes next is the bridge. Now, I promised you a tool, and I want to give it to you fully, because I believe what I am about to share is part of why this message found you today. The Genius Song is a 7-minute digital audio track developed by Dr. Robert Lake after 34 years of neuroscience research, in collaboration with findings from MIT, Princeton, Harvard, and several leading research institutions. It uses a technology called brain entrainment, a process by which a specific audio frequency guides the brain toward a target state through a principle called frequency following response. The target state is gamma. the state of divine receptivity, heightened clarity, and the intuitive knowing that your tradition has always called hearing from God. 7 minutes, headphones, eyes closed, every day. You do not need to meditate. You do not need a spiritual practice you have not already developed. You do not need equipment beyond a pair of headphones. You simply listen. 18,366 people have used this. And the number I want you to sit with is not that one. The number I want you to sit with is this one. Less than 4% of those 18,366 people asked for their money back. That is not a marketing number. That is a quality signal. Over 96% of the people who began continued, not because they were sold something, because it worked. This is not technology that exists separate from faith. This is the instrument that God is using in this generation to restore what the decline effect suppressed. The letter has arrived. The genius song is what helps you read it with clarity. Let me speak to a few things that may be present in your mind right now. You may be wondering whether a 7-minute audio can actually change something neurological. The research at those institutions says yes. The 34 years of Dr. Lake's work says yes. The less than 4% refund rate among 18,366 people says yes. You may be wondering whether you are spiritually advanced enough for this to work. You are not required to be spiritually advanced. You are required to be willing to listen. 7 minutes. That is the only prerequisite. And you may be wondering about the price. The original price is $49. For those watching this message, and only for those watching this message, the price has been reduced to $39. There is no shipping. It is delivered immediately to your email. You will not find this price on Amazon or anywhere else. This specific offer exists here. Attached to the Genius Song are 4 bonuses included at no additional cost. The first is the Genius Child Audio, a 6-minute track calibrated specifically for children's neural patterns before the decline effect takes full hold. If you have children, this is worth $19 on its own, and it is included. The second is the classic book that inspired the film, The Secret, not the film, the original source, the financial principles that the film drew from, valued at $20 on Amazon. Included. The third is a 2-minute guided visualization that walks through 4 areas of life: financial, relational, physical, and emotional, bringing clarity and alignment in each. Valued at $29. Included. The total value of the 4 bonuses alone is $80, included with your $39 purchase. And your purchase is fully protected by a 100% money-back guarantee. You can use it, listen to it as many times as you choose, and if you feel it has not served you, you receive a full refund. There is no condition on that guarantee. One thing I need to protect you from: there are copies of this audio circulating online that are not the verified formulation. They carry the name, but not the science. The only version that carries Dr. Lake's actual research is the one in the description and the pinned comment below. If you are going to invest in this, and I hope you will, when your spirit is ready, please only access it through that link. The address is risetopurpose.store. That is the only verified source. This offer is not permanent. The $39 price is specific to this message. I cannot tell you how long it will remain at this level. When your spirit says yes, the link is in the description and the pinned comment. Click it only then, only when you feel led. And before this message ends, I am going to speak something over your life that I believe will stay with you long after you leave this space. Stay with me for what comes next, because what comes next is the reason the letter was sealed. Now, I want to show you the piece that recontextualizes everything, not just this season. Everything. You have been living as though the story of your life was something that happened to you, a series of events, some good, some painful, some inexplicable, that you were trying to make sense of as you moved through them. A story you were reading for the first time, page by page, without knowing the ending. But here is what I need you to hear. In ancient Hebrew, there is a word, shelach. It means to send, but not casually, not the way you send a text message or forward an email. Shelach carries the weight of the sender. When a king shelach a messenger, that messenger traveled with the full authority, the full identity, the full intention of the king behind them. They were not simply delivering information. They were an extension of the one who sent them. When God shelachs something into the world, it is not an accident. It is not an experiment. It is a dispatch, a deliberate, prepared, intentional sending from the full weight of who he is. You were shelached, not dropped into this world, not born by biological process alone, dispatched, sent with a purpose that was determined before the sending, sent with the full weight of the one who sent you behind every step you have taken, every wilderness you walked through, every season that felt like silence. You thought you were looking for answers. You were being prepared to carry them. You thought you were waiting for God to move. He was waiting for you to be ready. You thought you were behind. You were being built. You thought this message found you by chance. It was addressed to you before you were born. And here is the last of what has been forming in you. The parts of your identity that needed the full preparation before they could be named. You are a light bearer, not because you perform light, because your presence changes the temperature of rooms without your trying. When you walk into a space that is confused or dark or tangled in something unspoken, something in the atmosphere shifts, not because you said the right thing, because of what you carry. People who cannot explain it will sometimes say, "You seem different." What they are sensing is frequency. The gamma that is being restored in you is not just clarity for yourself, it is what you were sent to carry for the spaces you inhabit. And you are a pioneer. You are walking in territory where there is no map, not because you are reckless, because you are the first. The path that you are building has not existed before you, because it was designed specifically for the combination of gifts, history, and calling that is uniquely yours. You have looked for someone who had already walked where you are walking, so you could follow their footsteps, and you have not found that person. That is not a gap. That is the confirmation. You are not following. You are making the path that others will one day follow. You went in confused. You are coming out commissioned. You went in overlooked. You are coming out appointed. You went in questioning whether the promises were for you. You are coming out knowing that you were always the intended recipient. I hear God saying over you right now, and I receive these words as a trust, not a performance. I did not send this message once because it was a limited message. I sent it once because I only needed to send it once, to the right person, at the right hour, in the right season, and that is you. That has always been you. The letter was always addressed to you, and now you have read it. The seal is fully open. You cannot unread what was written in the hand of God. Now let me speak practically about what is already shifting in your life, because this is not only about what you now know, it is about what you are going to walk into from this moment forward. For those who are entering this next season, and I want to be honest, that this is not a guarantee of timeline, it is a description of what is true about the season you are in. Here is what is already in motion. In the area of your relationships, the people who cannot hold your frequency at this level will begin to find natural distance. Not because you become cold, not because you push anyone away, but because the direction you are moving and the direction they are moving will simply not align in the same way anymore. That will feel lonely at first. You will wonder if you made a wrong turn. You did not. The space that is being created is not emptiness. It is room. And just when you begin to wonder if you are too far ahead to be understood, people will arrive who speak your language without you having to translate yourself. People who recognize what you carry because they carry something similar. Connections built not on history, but on alignment. Do not try to hold the ones who are leaving. Do not force what is already completing. Trust that what God is building in you is also building a table with the right people around it. In the area of your purpose, the restlessness that has felt so frustrating, the creative urgency with no clear direction, is going to start sharpening into something specific. The calling that has felt vague is going to begin to show its shape, not all at once, but in the way that a photograph develops, where you can see the outline first, then the details, then the full image. You will feel terrified and certain at the same time when it begins to clarify. Both of those feelings are correct. The terror is not a sign to stop. It is a sign that what you are stepping into actually matters. Do not wait until the fear is gone before you move. Move with the fear present. The path becomes visible by walking it, not by planning from a safe distance. And in the area of provision, the resources that your calling requires, they will begin to move toward you through channels you did not arrange and sometimes did not expect. Not because you hustled the right way or positioned yourself correctly, because what God assigns, God provisions, the people, the opportunities, the open doors, they are already in motion. Your part is not to engineer the how. Your part is to remain aligned with who you are becoming and trust that the provision is following the person. Now, I want to do something with you. You do not need to move from wherever you are. You do not need to change your position or your posture. I want you to do something entirely on the inside. In your mind, picture a door. Not a specific door from your life, just a door. And on this door, pressed into the surface, there is a seal. A real seal, the kind that means this was prepared and protected and intended. And on the seal, you can see your name. Not a generic name, yours. You have been standing in front of this door for longer than you know. And you have wondered, in the quiet moments, whether you were meant to open it or whether it was meant for someone else. Whether the name on the seal was really yours or whether you were misreading it. Now, in your imagination, place your hand on the door and notice that as you do, the door opens from the inside, not because you pushed it, not because you finally earned it, because it was always going to open at this moment. The timing was never in your hands. The opening was. On the other side of that door is a version of yourself you have been becoming. Not a stranger. Someone familiar. Someone who has been there. On the other side, waiting patiently for you to arrive. And they are not looking back at you in judgment of how long it took. They are looking at you the way you look at someone you have been waiting for, with relief that they are finally here. That version of you is who you have been being prepared to become. Type "I receive" in the comments to seal that in your spirit. Let everything you have just walked through settle for a moment. You have covered a significant amount of ground in this message. And before we close, I do not want you to rush past what just happened. You have been in the presence of something real tonight. Not performance. Not motivation that fades in 24 hours. Something was named in this space that needed to be named. Something was given back to you that belongs to you. Just breathe for a moment. Nothing to receive, nothing to release. Just let it settle. Now let me close this in the way it deserves to be closed. Father, I want to acknowledge this chosen one before you right now, not because you do not already see them, but because they need to hear that they are seen. I want to acknowledge every night they spent in the dark, asking questions that had no immediate answer, every time they stood back up when they had reason to stay down, every prayer they offered when the words felt hollow, but they offered it anyway. Every moment they chose to protect what was being built in them, even when that protection was misunderstood by the people around them. You saw all of it. Not one moment of it was lost. Not one tear was unregistered. Not one act of faithfulness in the wilderness was invisible. And we stand here now at the opening of what was always coming. I want to invite you to picture something one more time, right where you are. Picture every label that was placed on you that did not come from God. Every word that was spoken over you that assigned you a smallness you were never meant to carry. Too sensitive, too much, too slow, too different, too broken, too late. Picture those labels now. Feel the weight of them. You know exactly what they are. You have carried them for a long time. Now, not by force, not by fighting, let them fall. Not because you have defeated them, because they never belonged to you. They were placed on a person who no longer exists. The formation you walked through stripped the surface they were clinging to. There is nothing left for them to hold on to. Let them fall. Type I release right now. And now, hear this. With everything I have in me, with the full weight of what I believe was placed on my heart for you when this message was prepared. You are not forgotten. You are appointed. You are not overlooked. You are being unveiled. You are not behind. You are exactly where the letter was always meant to arrive. You are a seer. You are sent. You are sealed. I hear the Spirit declaring over you in this moment, and I receive this as truth, not as performance. The wilderness is over. The formation is complete. The letter has been read. Now go and live as one who received it, not as one who is still waiting for permission, as one who has already been commissioned, because you have. You were commissioned before you arrived. And today you simply remembered. Amen. Stay in this space for just a moment. Do not rush away from it. Let it complete. Right now, all across the world, there are chosen ones receiving this same message in their own language, in their own season, at their own kairos. You are not alone in this. You were never alone in this. What has been happening in you has been happening in others who carry the same frequency, who walked the same wilderness, who felt the same gap, who are standing at the same threshold. If you know someone in your life who has been unusually quiet lately, not distant in the ordinary way, but quiet in the way that means they are carrying something they cannot explain to anyone around them, someone who is still standing but barely, someone who is still here but barely. This message was sent once, but you can send it forward. Share it with them, not as an obligation, as an offering. If this message found the one it was sent for today, and I believe it did, would you press the like so it can travel to the next one? Not for numbers, for the next chosen one who is still searching. And if you want to be present when the next message arrives, when the next word is sent, for those who recognize their calling, stay connected. That is the only reason to stay. The Genius song, for those who feel led, remains in the description and the pinned comment below. The link is to Rise to Purpose. Store the only verified source, only when your spirit says yes. The letter has been read. Go live as one who received it.